Most men are taught the same lesson early in life. React fast, speak up, show strength, or you'll be overlooked. Silence is framed as weakness. Calm is mistaken for passivity. But in the real world, the men who command the most presence are rarely the loudest ones in the room. They are the ones who don't rush to react, the ones who don't explain themselves under pressure, the ones whose stillness makes others hesitate, adjust, and second-guess their own behavior. Calm is not the absence of emotion. Calm is mastery over emotion, especially when everyone else is losing control. It's the ability to stay grounded when provoked, to think clearly when tension rises, and to choose your response instead of being dragged into one. Stoic philosophy was never designed to create harmless men. It was designed to shape men who are difficult to manipulate, hard to intimidate, and impossible to rush. This video is not about weak silence. It's about the quiet power that makes an entire room feel you, without you saying a word. Calm is control, not weakness. From an early age, men are conditioned to believe that strength is loud. Raise your voice, push back harder, react quickly, or you'll lose ground. But this conditioning creates a dangerous illusion that whoever reacts the fastest is the one in control. In reality, the opposite is almost always true. The moment you lose your calm, you hand the steering wheel to someone else. Anger narrows your vision. Defensiveness locks you into predictable patterns. Urgency forces decisions before clarity has a chance to arrive. The person who provokes you understands this instinctively. They don't need to overpower you. They only need to speed you up. Once you react, you're no longer choosing. You're responding on their terms. Calm changes that dynamic completely. When you stay calm, you decide when to speak, how to respond, and whether an action is even necessary. You control the tempo, and whoever controls the tempo controls the interaction. In competitive environments, the workplace, social hierarchies, negotiations, even family conflicts, emotional pacing is everything. The man who rushes to defend himself reveals insecurity. The man who explodes under pressure signals vulnerability. But the man who pauses, observes, and responds deliberately forces everyone else to adjust. This is why calm is often misread as weakness by those who don't understand power. They mistake restraint for fear. They confuse silence with submission. They assume that if you're not reacting, you must be losing. What they don't see is that calm creates asymmetry. When you are calm and the other person is not, the balance shifts instantly. They speak more, they explain themselves, they expose motives, frustrations, and intentions you never had to ask for. Meanwhile, you gain information without giving any away. Stoic philosophy recognizes this as one of the highest forms of power: self-control. Not control over others, control over yourself. Because the man who controls his emotions cannot be rushed. He cannot be baited into decisions he'll regret. He cannot be manipulated through pressure, guilt, or provocation. Calm doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means your feelings no longer own you. You still experience anger, frustration, and stress, but they don't dictate your behavior. They become signals, not commands. Data, not drivers. In modern life, this ability is rare, and that's precisely why it's dangerous in the right hands. Most people live reactively. They are pulled by mood, circumstance, and the emotional weather of others. A calm man stands out not because he dominates the room, but because he is not dominated by it. That steadiness creates authority without effort. People listen more closely. They test you less. They sense that pushing you won't get the reaction they're looking for. Calm is not passivity. It is discipline. It is a restraint forged through awareness. And in a world addicted to emotional noise, the man who can remain composed holds an advantage that doesn't need to announce itself. Calm is not a weakness. Calm is control. And control is power. Why emotional men are easy to manipulate. Most manipulation doesn't require strength, status, or intelligence. It requires something far simpler: predictability. You don't have to be stronger than a man to control him. You only need to know how he reacts when he feels disrespected, rushed, or challenged. Once his emotional patterns are visible, his behavior becomes easy to steer. This is where many men misunderstand power. They assume manipulation looks aggressive, domination, threats, force. But in reality, manipulation is quiet. It waits for emotion to surface, then nudges it in a useful direction. An emotional man is not weak because he feels deeply. He is vulnerable because his feelings move him before his judgment does. Anger is the most obvious example. A man who gets angry quickly can be provoked into saying things he didn't plan to say, committing to positions he didn't choose, or escalating situations that didn't require it. Once that pattern is known, it can be triggered on demand. Defensiveness works the same way. The need to explain yourself, to justify your intentions, to prove you're not wrong. These reactions signal insecurity, and insecurity invites pressure. Even the urge to set the record straight can be used against you. The more you feel compelled to clarify, the more information you reveal. The more you reveal, the easier you are to guide. This is why emotional reactions are not just personal experiences. They are leverage points. A calm man removes those leverage points entirely. When someone can't predict how you'll respond, they lose their advantage. They can't bait you with insults. They can't rush you with urgency. They can't guilt you into decisions. Calm creates uncertainty, and uncertainty disrupts manipulation. Most people rely on emotional scripts. They expect anger when they provoke, defensiveness when they accuse, compliance when they apply pressure. When none of those reactions appear, the script collapses. This is deeply uncomfortable for manipulative personalities. They depend on emotional feedback to adjust their strategy. Without it, they're forced to reveal more of themselves: frustration, impatience, aggression, while you remain unreadable. Stoic philosophy understood this long before modern psychology gave it language. It taught that the greatest vulnerability is not emotion itself, but unexamined emotion. Feelings that move straight into action without passing through awareness. Calm doesn't mean you suppress what you feel. It means you create space between stimulus and response. That space is where power lives. In that space, you decide whether a reaction is necessary. You decide whether a comment deserves engagement. You decide whether someone else's urgency becomes your problem. The manipulator hates this more than confrontation. They can fight anger. They can exploit defensiveness. But calm gives them nothing to work with. No emotional hooks, no predictable buttons, no momentum to hijack. In a world where many men are trained to react quickly and loudly, the man who remains steady becomes difficult to influence, and therefore difficult to control. Not because he dominates others, but because he governs himself. And that makes him far more dangerous than someone who simply reacts well on cue. Silence changes the power dynamic. Silence is often misunderstood as retreat, as hesitation, as a sign that someone has nothing to say, or worse, nothing to offer. But in reality, silence is rarely empty. More often, it is intentional. In tense moments, a negotiation, a disagreement, a confrontation, most people feel an almost physical urge to speak, to explain, to defend, to fill the space before it turns uncomfortable. That urge is not confidence, it's anxiety. Silence interrupts that instinct. When you don't rush to speak, something subtle happens. The emotional pressure shifts. The other person begins to feel exposed by the quiet they expected you to relieve. So they talk. They explain more than necessary. They repeat themselves. They justify, clarify, and sometimes contradict their own position, all because silence unsettles them. This is one of the least understood dynamics of power. In negotiations, the person who speaks first after a pause often gives up leverage. They reveal priorities. They signal urgency. They show where the pressure actually lives. The same rule applies in arguments and social conflict. The one who keeps talking is usually trying to regain control or approval. The one who stays silent is observing, collecting information, and deciding whether engagement is even required. Stoic philosophy never treated silence as avoidance. It treated silence as discipline. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every provocation deserves acknowledgement. And not every misunderstanding needs immediate correction. Silence creates space, and space forces truth to surface. When you remain quiet, you allow others to reveal their intentions without resistance. Their tone changes, their patience thins, their real motivations begin to leak through. This is especially powerful in emotionally charged situations. Anger expects resistance. Criticism expects a defense. Manipulation expects a reaction. Silence denies all three. It doesn't escalate. It doesn't comply. It simply refuses to participate in the script. And that refusal alters the entire dynamic. A calm, silent presence communicates something words never could. I am not controlled by this moment. That message is deeply disarming. People instinctively test boundaries through speech. They probe with questions. They push with assumptions. They provoke with tone. When those probes meet silence instead of reaction, the tester is forced to confront uncertainty. And uncertainty is uncomfortable for anyone trying to dominate a situation. This doesn't mean silence is permanent. Stoic silence is timed. You speak when clarity matters. You act when intention is aligned. And when you do, your words carry more weight because they were chosen, not forced. Silence sharpens presence. It turns your eventual response into something deliberate instead of defensive. That's why calm men who use silence will often appear intimidating without trying to be. Not because they threaten, but because they don't explain themselves unnecessarily. In a culture addicted to constant expression, restraint feels foreign, almost confrontational. Yet the Stoics understood something modern life often forgets. Power doesn't come from filling every moment with noise. It comes from knowing when stillness says more. Silence is not weakness. It is a strategic pause that shifts the balance of power, quietly, decisively, and without apology. Calm people are hard to read. That's the threat. Human beings are uncomfortable around what they cannot predict. We look for patterns in tone, facial expression, posture, and reaction to decide how safe we are, how much leverage we have, and how far we can push. When those signals are missing or unclear, tension rises. Not because something bad is happening, but because control is slipping. Uncertainty triggers fear faster than open hostility ever could. A calm person disrupts this instinct immediately. Their emotional state doesn't fluctuate with praise or criticism. They don't rush to signal agreement, offense, or enthusiasm. And because their reactions are measured, others struggle to locate the usual cues. That struggle is where the threat begins. Most people reveal more than they realize. They show when they want approval, when they feel insecure, and when they need reassurance. These signals are subtle, but they are constant. Once noticed, they become points of influence. The person who can read them gains an invisible advantage. Calm people remove those signals. They don't perform for acceptance. They don't adjust their tone to win favor. They don't explain themselves to be liked. And because they don't broadcast emotional needs, there is nothing obvious to exploit, no clear buttons to press, no predictable response to provoke. This absence of validation-seeking behavior is deeply unsettling to others. Not because calm people are cold, but because they are self-contained. Their sense of stability doesn't depend on external confirmation. They don't need agreement to feel grounded. They don't need recognition to stay steady. Without the need for validation, control becomes difficult. Pressure loses its grip when there is no emotional reward attached to compliance. Criticism loses power when it doesn't trigger defensiveness. Praise loses leverage when it doesn't create dependency. The usual tools of influence stop working. This is why a calm presence often changes a room without effort. You don't have to dominate the conversation. You don't have to assert authority directly. People instinctively adjust themselves around you. They speak more carefully, test less, and project less. The danger isn't that calm people manipulate others. It's that they don't need to. Their neutrality forces others to confront their own behavior without resistance. In that space, insecurity becomes louder than composure. The imbalance grows on its own. Stoic philosophy understood this dynamic clearly. It taught that freedom begins when your inner state no longer depends on external reaction. When approval is optional, pressure loses urgency. When rejection no longer destabilizes you, fear loses its teeth. And when emotional independence is visible, others feel it immediately. That is why calm people are hard to read. Not because they are hiding something, but because they are not seeking anything. They are complete in themselves, and that completeness quietly removes the power others expect to have. You don't need to threaten. You don't need to impress. You don't need to explain. When you are calm, unpredictable, and self-directed, the room adjusts. Not because you force it to, but because there is nothing left to pull you off center. Stoic detachment versus emotional coldness. One of the biggest misunderstandings about Stoicism is the belief that it turns men into cold, distant, emotionless figures. That misunderstanding keeps many men from exploring it seriously. They assume detachment means shutting down, caring less, or numbing themselves to life. But Stoic detachment has nothing to do with emotional absence. It has everything to do with emotional ownership. Stoicism does not teach you to feel nothing. It teaches you that your emotions belong to you, not to the situation, not to other people, and not to the moment. Anger, sadness, frustration, and desire still arise. The difference is that they no longer dictate your behavior automatically. You experience them without surrendering control to them. Emotional coldness comes from fear. It's a defense mechanism built after disappointment, betrayal, or repeated hurt. Cold men withdraw because feeling became dangerous to them. They distance themselves not out of strength, but out of self-protection. What looks like control is often just avoidance. Stoic calm is the opposite of avoidance. It comes from clarity, not fear. A calm man is not afraid of emotion. He understands it. He knows what he feels, why he feels it, and how it influences his actions. That awareness allows him to stay present without being overwhelmed. There is a critical distinction here that most people miss. Coldness disconnects you from yourself. Detachment connects you more deeply to what's actually happening inside. One shuts emotions down to survive. The other holds emotions steady to act wisely. A detached man can feel anger without becoming reckless. He can feel sadness without collapsing into it. He can care deeply without losing himself. His emotions inform his decisions, but they do not command them. That balance is what gives calm its strength. This is why true Stoic calm feels grounded rather than distant. There is warmth beneath it, not emptiness. There is presence, not withdrawal. People often mistake this composure for indifference because it doesn't express emotion outwardly. But internally, it is anything but numb. Clarity is the key difference. Coldness avoids clarity because clarity would reopen old wounds. Stoic detachment seeks clarity because clarity removes confusion and fear. When you clearly understand what you control and what you don't, emotional chaos loses its grip. You stop fighting reality and start directing yourself. This kind of calm does not isolate you from life. It allows you to engage without being consumed. You can care without clinging. You can commit without losing balance. You can walk away without resentment. Stoicism never asked men to become less human. It asked them to become less reactive. Less is owned by impulse, less governed by fear disguised as emotion, and far more grounded in who they actually are. Real calm is not an emotional shutdown. It is emotional clarity. And clarity is what allows strength to remain steady, even when life doesn't. Why calm presence commands? Respect without force. Respect is often confused with intimidation. Many men believe they must raise their voice, assert dominance, or apply pressure to be taken seriously. But forced respect is fragile. It depends on constant reinforcement and collapses the moment resistance appears. True respect works differently. A calm presence does not rely on threats or volume. It doesn't need to announce authority or demand compliance. It simply exists, steady and unshaken, even when circumstances become tense. That steadiness communicates something powerful without words. It tells others that you are not trying to win control. You already have it. People instinctively test boundaries through emotion. They push to see who reacts, who flinches, who feels the need to assert themselves. When those tests meet calm instead of resistance, the testing stops. Not out of fear, but out of recognition. There is nothing to gain by pushing someone who does not move. This is how authority forms naturally, not from dominance, but from certainty. A calm man doesn't rush to correct others or impose his will. He speaks when it matters and remains silent when it doesn't. That selectiveness gives his words weight. Inner certainty is immediately felt by others. It shows in posture, timing, and restraint. People sense when you are not seeking their approval or their agreement. They feel that your stability is not dependent on their reaction. And that independence creates respect without effort. When you don't need others to change for you to feel grounded, pressure disappears. You are not negotiating your self-worth through conversation. You are not emotionally invested in being validated, understood, or praised. That absence of need removes leverage. And where there is no leverage, manipulation fails. Calm presence shifts responsibility back onto the room. Others become more measured in their tone. They choose words more carefully. They listen more closely, not because they are afraid, but because the environment demands it. This is why calm men are often described as commanding without trying. They don't compete for dominance. They don't react to provocation. They don't need to prove strength through force. Their composure does the work for them. Respect grows where emotional noise fades. It grows when people realize you cannot be rushed, pressured, or pulled off center. It grows when your presence feels stable rather than reactive. And once it's established, it doesn't need reinforcement. It simply remains. Calm authority is quiet, but it is unmistakable. It doesn't push others down to rise. It stands firm and lets everything else adjust. That is why it lasts. Training the calm mind. Daily Stoic practice. Calm is not a personality trait you're born with. It's a skill you build, sharpen, and maintain through repetition. Some men appear naturally composed only because they've practiced control for years. What looks effortless is usually trained. And like any skill, calm weakens when it's neglected. The first step is observation. Before you can control your reactions, you have to notice them. Pay attention to the moments when your body tightens, your breathing shortens, or your thoughts rush ahead. These signals appear before words or actions do. Awareness turns those signals into information instead of commands. Most reactions happen because there is no pause. Stimulus hits, emotion flares, action follows. Stoic practice inserts a space between those moments. Even a brief pause, 1 breath, 1 second, is enough to regain choice. That pause is where calm begins. Pausing is not hesitation. It's restraint with intention. When you pause, you interrupt the emotional momentum that would otherwise carry you away. You give your rational mind time to re-enter the room, and that small delay often changes the outcome entirely. From that pause, you choose. You choose whether the situation deserves engagement. You choose the tone you want to carry forward. You choose action instead of reflex. Over time, this choice becomes instinctive. Stoic calm is built in ordinary moments, not dramatic ones. Traffic, emails, minor disagreements, interruptions. These small pressures are training grounds. Each one is an opportunity to practice restraint without high stakes. Consistency here prepares you for moments that actually matter. Daily practice also means accepting imperfection. You will react sometimes. You will lose your balance and catch it late. That doesn't mean the practice failed. It means the practice reveals where work remains. The goal is not emotional suppression. It's emotional literacy. You learn what triggers you, why it does, and how to respond without betraying your values. That knowledge builds confidence quietly, and confidence reinforces calm. As calm becomes habitual, your presence changes. You stop feeling pulled into every emotional current. You stop explaining yourself unnecessarily. You stop rushing to correct, defend, or impress. What remains is clarity. This is how calm becomes durable. Not through philosophy alone, but through daily application. Small choices repeated consistently. Awareness before reaction. Action guided by intention. By the time pressure arrives, the work is already done. You don't search for calm, you return to it, because you trained it there, patiently, one moment at a time. As we come to the end of this video, one truth should now feel clear. Calm is not weakness. Calm is inner authority. Calm is the ability to remain grounded when emotions rise, when pressure builds, and when others try to pull you into reactions that don't serve you. The most dangerous person in any room is not the loudest voice or the most aggressive presence. It is the one who cannot be emotionally provoked, rushed, or manipulated into playing a game they never agreed to. Throughout this video, we explored how calm creates control rather than passivity, how emotional reactivity opens the door to manipulation, how silence quietly shifts power, how true Stoic detachment brings clarity instead of emotional coldness, and how a calm presence earns respect without force, threats, or explanation. This kind of calm is not a personality trait. It is a discipline, a practice built through awareness and restraint. It begins by observing your reactions before they turn into actions, by allowing a pause between stimulus and response. You don't need to change the world around you. You don't need to control other people or outcomes. The only thing required is mastery over yourself. That single discipline reshapes how you move through conversations, conflict, and pressure. Thank you for staying with this reflection from beginning to end. Choosing calm in a reactive world takes patience and courage. If this message resonated, the next step is learning how calm evolves into inner freedom, a mind that remains steady, even when life doesn't. Until then, carry your calm with intention. I'll see you in the next video.